Dear brothers and sisters, there are no days in the year of the Church that I think are filled with such a meaning as Holy Thursday. But then when you think about it, you think of Good Friday and Easter Sunday. Isn't this week so full of meaning and so full of richness? We've begun, as I said, the Easter Triduum. And in these 3 solemn days, we will reenact the deepest mysteries of our faith, the passion, the death, and the resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ. These 3 days are at the core of our faith, of our creed. They are central to the message of Christianity. And when you think about Holy Thursday and all that happened that evening, Jesus had his Last Supper when he instituted the Eucharist and the priesthood and washed the feet of the 12 apostles, giving them the new commandment of love. And of course, if we reflect on what happened after that, out in the Garden of Gethsemane, he felt that great agony and pain of isolation, realizing perhaps that his end was near, and perhaps also agonizing over whether or not his entire mission had been worthwhile. He pleaded with his Father, "If it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done." It was on this night that he was betrayed by a friend with a treacherous kiss. He was arrested. He was denied by another one of his closest followers, the stalwart Simon Peter, the one he had called the Rock. He was accused. He faced flawed and false testimony cynically brought to condemn him. Before the high priest that night, he was condemned and sent before Pilate. So much to recall during this ceremony. But central, of course, to this moment is what happened at the Last Supper, when Jesus took bread and said, "This is my body given for you." And he took the cup filled with wine and said, "This is my blood, the blood of the new covenant, poured out for the forgiveness of sins." And of course, he also gave the command to his disciples, "Do this in remembrance of me." And so at this Mass, we commemorate the institution of the Eucharist, but also the institution of the priesthood. When he asked his closest friends to remember and represent this night for all time in remembrance of what happened. Dear brothers and sisters, I've always been fascinated by the two sides of what we mark tonight. The institution of the Eucharist and the priesthood, but also that amazing gesture which Jesus did during that supper, when he took a basin of water and a towel and washed the feet of his disciples, the job of the lowliest servant in the house, to wash the dirty, dusty feet of the guests. No wonder Peter protested, "Lord, you're not going to wash my feet." But Jesus, of course, was teaching that not only was he giving his friends the Eucharist, but he was also pointing to the importance of service. Eucharist and service, Eucharist and mission. The great Pope St. John Paul II once said, "There can be no authentic celebration of the Eucharist that does not lead to mission." I'm delighted that we have here this evening our own Father Michael Donnelly from Armagh. And Father Michael is a member of the Missionaries of the Most Holy Eucharist. What a beautiful title. We are all called to be missionaries of the Most Holy Eucharist, not just to go to Mass and soak it all up for ourselves, but in turn to go out, to be missionaries. At the end of every Mass, the priest says, "Go. Go and serve the Lord. Go and glorify the Lord by your life." Mission and Eucharist. Eucharist and service are two sides of that same amazing mystery. I'm very conscious these days that, thank God, we've been able to return to public worship in a cautious and safe way. But my heart goes out to our brothers and sisters south of the border who are still locked down and unable to gather tonight as we are doing in person. But of course, it's important for us to realize that the Eucharist leads to mission. And even if we're not able to receive the Eucharist as often as we can, we have the blessing of the spiritual communion, which also calls us to mission. And I'm very conscious of those parts of the world where there are not enough priests for people to have the celebration of the Eucharist as we have and can so easily take for granted. Perhaps the pandemic has reminded us of the gift of the Holy Mass and the gift of being able to receive the Eucharist, but hopefully also it is challenging us to let our reception of the Holy Eucharist and our attendance at the Holy Mass lead us to mission. Dear brothers and sisters, let us reflect on the great gift of the Eucharist and of that new commandment which Jesus gave his disciples, to love one another, to serve one another, just as he loved and served them.